Finally, after 2 weeks, the man, the myth, the legend, Aiden McNally is back, everyone.
So glad to be back, Evan. Thank you for the warm welcome. On this sports show, we cover the Westfield sports going on before break, college sports, and the very weird week in the National Football League.
All right, to start off, let's talk about the girls basketball team, Aiden. After a hot start of 5-2, they're down to 5-5.
Let's explain those losses. The first of which was to Warsaw. The Lady Rock started off slow, only scoring 4 in the first quarter. After that, they just couldn't keep up, the final score being 48-41.
Their second one is a little more confusing. On paper, the game against Carmel should have been a win. We went into the game with a better shooting stats and a better record. Well, ironically, this game was by far our worst from the field. A grand total of 5 points in the first half, all of which were in the first quarter, was a sign that we were not playing like we did against Pendleton Heights, for example, where we put up 55.
After 8 points in the third, we found our offense too late, putting up 20 in the fourth quarter. Since Carmel was much more consistent, especially in the second half, that forced us to take our second loss in a row. Ellie Kelleher was your leading scorer in this game with 10 points.
The third loss was a well-fought effort versus one of the best teams, not just in the conference, not just in 4A, but the entire state in Zionsville.
A slow start yet again was a major factor in the loss. 2 points in the first quarter and 14 in the second was enough to keep us in striking distance at the half, being only down by 4.
In the second half, it was a lot more competitive. The Lady Rocks not letting Zionsville get too far away. In the end, though, it was not meant to be, and the Rocks took their third loss in a row, 43-39.
A couple things to note here. 1, Ellie Kelleher is her. She's a great source of offense in this team. 2, we need to rebound. In all 3 of those losses, we were out-rebounded by at least 3 rebounds.
Very well said, Aiden, and I agree. I mean, we have the talent, now we just need to execute. 3 conference games and a tournament end out the calendar year for the Lady Rocks. This Tuesday against Avon at home, away on Saturday at Noblesville at 1:30, then next Tuesday at home versus Franklin Central.
On the guys' side, we are a success on all fronts. They boast a 3-1 record going into a crucial week before a conference matchup versus Noblesville.
The only game we need to talk about was the win on Saturday at home versus Guerin Catholic. A slow start saw the team down 26-27 at half, and then from what I've been told, there was a heck of a speech given. Aiden, do you know how I know for a fact that there was a heck of a speech given?
I don't necessarily know, maybe because they outscored Guerin 34-17 in the second half.
Gosh, you're so smart.
Thanks, man. Yeah, the boys got it done in the second half. They flipped the switch and turned on the Jets to get a 16-point win, 59-43 over Guerin. Trey Buchanan was the top scorer in this one, but someone I want to touch on is Charles Farrell. Chick had 13 points and was showing a ton of effort. A great game for him, his best of the season by far, and a great team win going into a tough week.
It will be a tough week, I can tell. Noblesville is good this year. They've won on a couple buzzer beaters and had some solid wins against some solid teams. The undefeated Millers come visit the Rocks on Friday for one of the most anticipated conference matchups of the year by far. Show out.
Well, you're forgetting a couple games here. 24 hours after that game, the Bethesda Christian Patriots come to town. At the time of their recording, they're 4-0, which will make the second straight undefeated team to come into Westfield in a row. Then to wrap up 2022, we host Muncie Burris. You won't want to miss that action.
As for the other sports, swimming did not do well against HSC and Franklin Central, and wrestling did well versus Warren Central, and both teams have events this week and next week. All right, not much happened in college football. No games have really been played ever since you last saw us, other than the Army-Navy game every year, which Army won in overtime.
The Heisman was also given out to Caleb Williams. Personally, I don't like the pick.
Really?
I think it should have been either Duggan or Stroud, in my opinion, but he gratefully accepted the award and had some jokes at the ceremony.
If any of you guys remember early on in the year when we did the debate of Hooker versus Stroud, I said Stroud, and I was very wrong. Granted, I think the recency bias got to the committee before putting Duggan above him. Well, college basketball has been weird.
Yeah, the #1 ranked team in the country lost to Alabama.
Roll Tide! Shout out Ryland.
You good?
I'm better than good, thank you for asking.
Why is that?
Well, Purdue won, IU lost, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, the refs were terrible in that IU game.
So I've heard, yeah.
Purdue shot 24% from the field.
Purdue's also undefeated.
Yeah, true. IU has much more of a talented squad, in my opinion.
2 losses clearly say otherwise. You know,
Yeah,
Trace Jackson Davis
shut
isn't really
up.
all
No.
him. Zach Edey is.
Zach Edey is
Zach
the hype
Edey's such
merchant.
a better person.
Zach Edey. All right.
Whatever. All right.
Sorry, that's my bad.
You know what? Let's just both agree that we hate Rutgers, and then we can just move on.
Yeah.
Illinois got beat by Penn State, which really solidifies the fact that the Big Ten is the most competitive college basketball conference, and there's no matter how terrible some of the teams may be, it's always competitive.
That really is true. By the way, shout out to UConn men's and women's basketball teams, both of which are off to a hot start.
It's feeling like 2011 all over again.
I think it might be a little too early to say that.
Whatever. Oh yeah, and shout out to Maryland. Congrats, Terrapins.
Yeah.
You haven't won in 10 days and lost 2 straight, one of which was to an unranked team.
So what do you want to talk about first, Baker Mayfield or Brock Purdy?
You know, the fact that both of those quarterbacks won against seasoned veterans and are more relevant than those quarterbacks that they beat says a lot about this NFL season as a whole.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield completed the comeback for the Rams as they beat the Raiders by 1 point, 17-16. Without Cooper Kupp, it's interesting to see how Baker will lead this offense from here on out.
Brock Purdy, probably the most successful Mr. Irrelevant in NFL history, won his first ever NFL start over Tom Brady's Bucs. Only missing 5 passes all game and throwing for 2 touchdowns, he had a very good start to his hopefully long NFL career. Christian McCaffrey showed out today too, which helped not only the 49ers win, but helped me win my fantasy matchup too.
I'm definitely cheering for Brock Purdy. Cowboys barely escaped the 1-win Texans, the Ravens barely escaped the Steelers despite Kenny Pickett not starting, and the Eagles proved that their offensive power is unmatched and put up 48 on the Giants in the Meadowlands.
The Lions moved into the hunt for the NFC playoffs with a huge win over the Vikings, and that race for the NFC North tightens up as well. The Jaguars moved into the 2nd spot in the AFC South with a dominant win over Tennessee in Nashville. The Panthers moved into the 2nd spot in the NFC South with a solid win over the Seahawks in Seattle, and the Bills survived in the elements at home versus the Jets.
Finally, despite Patrick Mahomes trying his hardest to give the game away in Denver, the Chiefs put out a solid second half and a win versus the Broncos. Oh, not this again.
Oh yes, this again.
I'll let you take this one.
Good, thank you. Thank you so much, Aiden. I appreciate that. Joe Shiesty and the Bengals took down Deshaun Watson and the Browns. Joey franchise passed for 239 yards and 2 touchdowns, and with help from Joe Mixon and his favorite target, Jamar Chase, the Bengals overpowered the Clevelanders 23-13.
And that is all.
Yes, it is. That is all from the Sports Desk. For the final time in 2022, stay breezy and go Rocks.